Thank you for joining us around the fire. Now, want to hear a scary story?
The boy's name was Tommy, and he had always loved exploring the garden. He despised the stuffy silence of the house, and he spent hours in the sun listening to the branches dancing in the wind and the whistling birds, chittering squirrels, and other scampering yard creatures. His favorite spot was situated near the end of the fence, where the earth felt looser than the rest. And he spent his days digging away in search of lost treasures and secrets and stones in especially satisfying shapes, and the occasional ancient fossil. He kept these precious fortunes of his in an old shoebox in the closet, like a private vault, and a tiny museum filled with old, cracked glass marbles and angled bits of pottery. On one particular late summer afternoon, as the lazy, sinking shadows began to stretch over the yard, Tommy dug into the dirt with his small, rusted shovel until he struck something small and hard. But the object wasn't dense in the way of a stone or glass. Rather, it held a yielding firmness more akin to the heel of a boot. As Tommy curiously brushed away the dirt with his fingers, he saw something pale and fleshy sticking out of the earth. He stared at it, unsure of what to do. What emerged was unmistakably a big human toe. It's probably just some weird root, he thought to himself, though he didn't believe it. The big toe was topped with a big toenail, jagged and yellow, in contrast to the blue-tinted skin. He tried to pluck it free, but it wouldn't budge. Determined, he gripped it firmly and gave it a hard yank. With a wet, sucking sound, the toe finally tore loose, and for the first time, Tommy saw its gnarled end, blackened with decay, with a bit of bone protruding as though it had been violently severed. Tommy stumbled back, the toe clutched in his hands, and then he swore he heard a low groan in the distance. Or was it just the wind in the trees? Something small skittered away through the underbrush, too quick for him to see, and Tommy ran inside the house and into the kitchen where his mother was chopping up onions. "Mother, look!" the boy cried. "Look what I've found!" And he held up the big toe he pulled from the garden. His mother wiped her hands on her apron, turned to him, and opened her eyes wide, blinking away the vapors that stung at them like little bees. "Well, isn't that strange?" she said, taking it from him. "Some kind of deformed potato?" But Tommy pointed at the protruding bone. "Strange indeed," his mother said. "But even better for it. Finally, something to add a touch of flavor to the soup." Before Tommy could protest, she crossed to the stove and tossed the toe into the simmering pot. When his father returned from a long day at work, Tommy joined his parents at the dinner table, where the big toe had been served in 3 neat pieces. A small bite of meat for each of them, a rare delicacy in such hungry times. The meat was tender, slightly sweet and slightly fatty, and neither Tommy nor his mother mentioned the day's strange discovery. After they'd all cleaned their plates, Tommy helped with the dishes before he bid his parents goodnight. He'd sleep well with a full stomach, he thought. The house soon grew quiet as night fell and his parents retired to their own room. Tommy's quarters were small and cozy, with a single window that looked out to the garden. He drifted to sleep quickly, but in the dead of night, something woke him. A sound, faint at first, but unmistakable. A voice.
Where is my toe?
It groaned, stretching the final word into a mournful wail. Tommy's eyes snapped open. His heart raced as he strained to listen, but he didn't hear a thing. It was just a dream, he told himself, ducking under his blanket for safety. But just as he started to drift away again, the voice returned, louder this time.
Where is my toe?
Tommy squeezed his eyes shut as terror prickled up from the base of his neck. Who could it be? He thought fearfully. Or what could it be? He froze there in the quiet night, waiting, listening. Then he heard it again from the street outside.
Where is my toe?
Tommy froze under his blanket. It doesn't know where I am, he thought. It'll keep moving along and go away. But then he heard the familiar creak of the back door swinging open. And his blood turned to ice.
Where is my toe?
The voice was inside the house now. Heavy feet dragged themselves across the kitchen floor. Tommy wanted to scream for his parents, but his voice was caught in his throat. The footsteps moved through the kitchen, to the dining room, into the living room, and then the front hall. Each step seemed heavier than the last, angrier. The stairs creaked under the weight of whatever was ascending. Tommy buried himself deeper under the blanket, silently begging the thing to leave.
Where is my toe?
It had reached the hallway outside his room. The door creaked open. Tommy could feel the air shift as something entered the room, the heavy shuffling moving closer until it reached the foot of his bed, and everything went quiet. Tommy was frozen in the darkness. He couldn't hear anything but his shallow breathing. Perhaps it was all in his head. Perhaps his mind had gotten stuck between his dreams and reality. Perhaps he hadn't heard the sounds at all. Summoning every ounce of courage, Tommy peeked from under the blanket. And now, he knew for certain that the voice in the night and the figure it came from were unmistakably real. In the dim moonlight, he saw its twisted form, its face in ghastly shadows, its limbs impossibly long, and its eyes, 2 pinpricks of deep red light burned into his own.
You've got my toe.
Suddenly, the monster reached out his claw-like fingers, and Tommy screamed. Falling backwards off his bed, he desperately tossed his blanket at the thing, and it stumbled and howled. The boy grabbed his small shovel from the table and prepared himself for the worst. The next morning, as the pale light of dawn crept through the shutters, Tommy's parents awoke to a dreadful sight. Bloody footprints tracked across the wooden floors. They followed the crimson trail step by step until it led them to their son in bed. There, Tommy lay still and silent. His face was as pale as fresh fallen snow. With trembling hands, his mother pulled back the blankets, and a cry escaped her lips. Where his big toe had been, there was now a dark and gaping wound. The bedclothes were soaked through with blood, and the horrible truth was clear. Sometime in the night, their boy had slipped away. What was devoured in hunger was paid for in blood, and the house fell silent once more. But in the days and years that followed, as his parents grew older and sadder, they often swore they heard a terrible groaning late at night, just barely above the branches dancing in the wind. It was their little boy's voice.